All right. Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Petal Talk podcast. I am your host, Allison Crowder, and today I am meeting with a good pal of mine, Brittany. Hi, welcome to Petal Talk, where skincare meets soul care. She is an owner of a Pure Barre here located in downtown Lake Mary, and barre is something that it's not for the weak, okay? If anyone listening has ever taken a barre class, I have taken many, they would know that barre instructors, recipients, owners, barre is arguably one of the hardest work classes I've ever taken in my entire life.
Super challenging.
Everyone is a ninja. It's loud music. The room is dark. And it's something that I really loved for a season of my time, or a season of my life after I was in a car accident. I was opting for a way to move my body that wouldn't hinder my hurt muscles and hurt bones. And I found barre, and it totally changed my life. And I'm very familiar with Pure Barre kind of on its own. And the Rose has done a couple events with the Pure Barre down here. And Brittany has a really interesting story. And so I wanted to have you on the pod to share a little bit about you, your business, your best practices. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, we're so happy to have you.
Yeah, I love working with you guys. You are the best. So
yeah, we also luckily have a lot of the same clientele.
We do.
Which I think is really cool, because I think the girl that takes barre classes also takes care of her skin, because it is this full kind of total body wellness experience. Taking care of your skin, taking care of your body, taking care of your muscles, eating well, living well, like all of that is so important. And that's something that we preach about all the time. You know, you're going to see the best results from your skincare when you take care of your body. And just like with barre, you know, you're being able to take care of your body without all of that extra cortisol and like stressing yourself out. Mm-hmm. And so we are really synergized. We're very simpatico, as I like to say. So tell us a little bit about the business. Tell us, what is Pure Barre if someone is listening and they don't know, or what is barre if people don't know?
Sure. So barre is musically driven workout that's low impact, which means you're always going to have one foot on the floor at all times. And it's high energy, but it's not high intensity. So it's not going to be like a CrossFit or F45 or anything like that. It's definitely a workout for everyone. So we have women that, you know, in their 20s all the way up until their mid 70s. And it's just a great way to move your body. Like you said, it's very, it's challenging, which yes, I mean, my husband's done it several times. He actually would do it while he was training for his half Ironmans.
Oh, wow.
So it was a way for him to get away from beating himself up on the pavement.
Totally.
So he would come into the studio and he would do the workouts with me. Yeah. And I mean, he would say the same thing. It is very challenging, so but we always tell everyone that tries it for the first time that don't give up on yourself. I mean, you are very much stronger than you think.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely a mindset. And that's another thing about barre is it is a mind to muscle connection that will organically happen if you are consistent with the workouts. Absolutely. And that's what happened with me. So a little backstory on the studio itself.
Yes,
is,
tell us.
So it opened in 2017. And it was owned by Ellen Daly. And I started as a member with her back when she first opened. And it was a place where I had just had my son in 2016. I was an avid road cyclist. But after having my son, I just saw the dangers of being a cyclist. So I stopped. And then a friend of mine actually told me about barre, which I had no idea what it was. The studio just opened in Lake Mary, so I went and took a free class, and it was it was awkward. Like I was in these, like trying to watch.
It is awkward.
It is.
Especially if you're using like the ball for the first time, or you've never used any sort of like resistance bands. You're like throwing your leg up on the side. You're like, is this right? My teacher, previously when I've taken classes, has always said, if it feels weird, you're probably doing it right, which is so true, because you're doing things that you've never done before, right? At all. And so you're like, oh, it's like embarrassing. Sorry, but you're probably doing it right.
Well, I just was, you know, you're in a room full of like maybe 20 other people, and you're following along with the instructor. And you know, the music is amazing. So at least
it's so good.
The playlists are incredible.
Yes, that's my favorite part.
We have some great music.
Yes.
So yeah, I was just following along, and you're trying to, you know, watch everybody else in the room and the instructor. And I was overwhelmed at first, but I thought to myself, myself. It was good. I felt sore the next day, which I knew it worked.
Did you get the shakes?
To come back. Yeah.
I
still get the shakes.
I still get the shakes.
I mean, it is definitely, and that means you're definitely working, you know.
Totally.
So, and that was my goal. My goal was to tone my body. After having my son, I gave myself a year off. And I found, like I said, my friend told me about it, and then I joined, and I never looked back. I mean, I've been doing this since 2017. It's so changed my body, and it's changed me mentally.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity a few years back to purchase the studio, and it was the best thing I think that has ever happened to me.
I love that.
I'm a faith-based person, so I felt like it was a God move.
Absolutely.
When it all kind of came about.
Absolutely.
And I let it kind of marinate for a while when we got approached by the former owner. And, of course my husband was like, no, we're not doing this, you know, and that's okay. So it was one of those things, like I let it sit for about a few weeks, but something just kept on, like, you know, nagging at me a little bit. And I talked to my best friend at the time, and she just said, Brittany, you can't let this go. You know, you need to listen to your inner voice. Absolutely. And so I approached my dad actually. And my dad and I sat down with the former owners, and we talked it all out. And my dad just looked at me and he's like, you know what? We can make this work. Yeah. And it was a way for me to get out of, I was in a corporate role at the time.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, so when you're little, when you're a child, do you always love fitness? Do you start bicycling like so young? Like, what does that look like? Were you always... Fitness was always a part of your life growing up, or is that something you learned as an adult? What did that look like?
Fitness was always a part of my life. I started, when I was in elementary school, I ran in like our little track team. My dad and I would run together, and then my dad got me into tennis. So I was taking tennis lessons like when I was probably around 7, 8 years old. And and then I just, you know, gradually, like through high school, I was, you know, a cheerleader. I was on the tennis team. Nice. I, you know, always wanted to stay active. And I always feel better when I'm active. It's one of those things where I know fitness can be a love-hate. And that's why I love barre, because it's always different. Every class is always going to be different when I go in there. So I'm not getting bored. And like I said, the music is really, for me, I can just lose myself in the music. So I can stop thinking so much about what I'm doing. I just get into that groove. And I think, that's just... For me, it's always been a part of my life. It's just fitness.
Did you always want to own your own business when you were younger, or did you do college, or did you do anything after school?
Okay, so my background is very unique. I never thought I was going to own my own business. This, again, was just one of those things that came about, and I, you know, it just was one of those things where I had to take advantage of it. But no, I did go to college. I'm actually a UCF grad.
Oh, nice.
I got my degree in pre-law.
Oh, wow.
So thinking I was going to go that direction. But I had a couple of opportunities where I got to see more of myself in that role of maybe being a lawyer. And I chose to just go a different path. And that kind of led me into some different jobs that I did for a while. And I ended up becoming a corporate event planner.
Oh, cool.
So I was working for like a Fortune 500 company, and I was dealing with, it was in the financial industry. So I was dealing with planning events, you know, with a huge budget.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of stressful. But
yeah,
probably so fun.
It was fun. It definitely had its moments, don't get me wrong.
But so much pressure, I'm sure.
A lot of pressure. Yeah. I think at one point our director of our events team told us that out of, I forgot what magazine it was, but out of like a firefighter and police officer, the third most stressful role was event planners.
Yeah, I believe you.
And
it's a lot of work.
Shocked. I was like, I was shocked that we were right underneath like firefighters or police officers, but I was like, it makes sense because there is so much pressure.
There's
like
so much.
I mean, the unfortunate situation with New Orleans and how, like, you know, the people who planned all of that, and then you have that tragic event, and it's like, how do you pivot? You know, I mean, all that stress that everybody has to take on,
and everyone's looking at you, and it's all expensive, and it's all about time management, and it's all about aesthetic, and everyone can see if something's not right, or hear it, or taste it, or whatever. And especially for something that big, I'm sure you're entertaining like big type of clients, right? And so Yeah, that sounds like, I mean, I think our events are a little stressful and they're about this big comparatively. And I think about even like my wedding, I'm like, I could never do that again.
That's another one. Yep.
Yeah, it's so much. And there's the details, right? Like, do you want this silverware or this napkin folded this way? And it's like, I don't care. Just pick. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, so you decided that you get married at some point.
I did.
And have babies. Like, when does this happen? Were you in law events at the time, or what did that look like?
So my husband and I actually met on MySpace.
Ooh,
so that is how long ago we go back.
Vintage.
Yes, we met in, actually it was 2006. So it was right towards the end of me graduating college.
Nice.
We met on MySpace. It was a little rocky in the very beginning, but that's okay. It's how all great relationships start,
mine too,
right?
girl.
But yeah, and then we ended up dating for about 4 years.
Nice.
And then we got married in 2010.
Nice.
And then decided 6 years later to have a child. Yeah. So we kind of, we took our time.
Yeah.
We weren't really sure if we were going to be those parents. You know, we didn't know if we wanted children or not. But something clicked and we just decided. So that was 2016. We had our son, Ethan.
Nice.
I mean, we're one and done though.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine having more than that. So especially now owning my own business.
Yeah, totally.
It's just
so much work.
It is. I have a lot of respect for anyone who has more than one child.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and I've learned that, and I respect it and appreciate that this is, the journey that I'm on.
Totally.
But one's good for me.
Totally.
I know if my mom's listening, she's still probably out there hoping I'm going to have
maybe
more.
One day. Yeah, totally.
Not happening. Sorry,
totally.
Mom. But yeah, so then that's basically, like I just said at the beginning, it's having my son and then I did give myself a year off though, from working out.
So talk about that, right? Because I think that's something that I was telling you this kind of off camera prior. I'm kind of in this age right now where all of my friends are having babies. My sister-in-laws are having babies. Everyone is doing that. And you don't really know this when you're so young because you just think like, oh, adults have kids and it just is what it is. But then when you become that adult that is not maybe having kids, the conversation around like how much physically it takes to grow that said human, and then how much it also then physically takes to bounce back, in air quotes if you're listening audio only, but bounce back to what was before, when that's kind of not realistic. Like, are you someone that struggled with that type of thing? I didn't even realize, like my sister-in-law just had a baby, for example, about a month ago. And I didn't even realize that it takes over a month for your tummy to even kind of go back. I think you have a baby and then it's flat again. But that's actually so not true. And I didn't know that, but like, you don't know that until like you go through it. Right. So like, what did that look like for you? Did you find that you struggled in that department, or did you look to fitness to kind of help with that? Like, what did that look like for you?
So, I mean, always being active before. I mean, I'll be honest, I found out that I was pregnant with my son, it was the morning of it was my husband and my dad. We were always big into doing the MS bike rides. My mom has MS, so we would always do that every year. And so it was about 100-mile ride on day one.
Yeah.
So we always trained for it. And the morning of the ride, I found out I was pregnant. And I was like standing there in the hotel room thinking, oh my goodness, like how am I going to jump on this bike? Because I didn't want to tell anybody.
Right.
Because side note, I did miscarry before having my son. And I think it's, extremely common nowadays. We don't talk about it enough, but it does, it happened to me and it was devastating. But I was able to surround myself with a great group of people to help, lift me back up and try it again. Yeah. And then I got pregnant.
Right.
And, so that morning I was panicking, thinking like, oh my goodness, I don't want to say anything yet, but I still got to accomplish this, this race. And so my husband just said, that's fine. We'll do this. I'll pull like the entire way, or, your dad and, my dad and him basically transition back and forth. And so I was able to do it. And it's such a great story now, because I could just say that, Ethan was on his first bike ride that day. Yeah. After that, it was hard. Like, you're right. After having him, my body was different. And this is why, I tell every single person that comes into Pure Barre, to try it out. Like, I give them a little bit of my story, and I say that I had to give myself grace. I mean, that's the biggest thing with women is that we have to give ourselves grace in what our bodies went through and accomplished. And then
crazy.
We can't just bounce back. Like I'm not a celebrity, so I don't have like access to a lot of what they have.
Right.
But I took a year off. I tried halfway through getting into like those home workouts. I thought I was going to die, you know, even at home trying to work out. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm not ready for this. Yeah. So let's just pause. Right. And like I said, when my friend mentioned barre, I, you know, gave it a shot and I never looked back. And I would say within a year, I was down to my pre-pregnancy weight and I was seeing my body change from just doing these super small movements because that's what barre is also about. It's very small isometric movements.
I think people underestimate how impactful that can be too, right? Yeah, and I think even referencing your husband, who is like this big athlete, right? Who then comes in and does what looks like a dance class. But it's like those tiny movements are game changing though. Those tiny movements are what you can't walk for 4 days or you can't you can't do your hair because your arms are so sore. And that's silly, but like this is challenging sometimes, right? Correct. And people don't even give it a chance. They think lifting things and putting them down is the only way to get there. And it's just not. But what comes with that is what I've learned a lot about recently is how stressful actually that can be on your body and how these really intense like HIIT workouts are, especially on women, like it's really hard. And I'm not someone who does well with those types of things. Like it almost makes me like more inflamed and like more swollen when I do things like that, that I like the like, what is it called? Like that, what did you call it? The isometric. Yeah. That and like the calisthenics, like kind of approach, because it's not good for me to be throwing things up and down. I'm like a tiny girl. I'm not jacked, right? Like it's hard for me. And, I'm grateful that there's a lot of options for whatever workout suits you best. But I do think a lot of new mamas, take it easy, girl.
Absolutely.
It took you 9 months to grow the baby. It's going to take you at least 9 months to feel a little back to normal.
Right.
Right? Like I always have thought that if it took you that long to do it, you should give yourself at least that long to go back, kind of.
I agree.
Yeah, and your body is just so wild. You know, my sister-in-law just having a baby recently has really changed me. She's a bit younger than me, and I've never seen it this up close. I've had a lot of girlfriends have babies, but we've lived in different states. I've moved around a lot, whatever. And she doesn't even live here. She lives in Idaho. But having such a close view, the woman's body is incredible. It's something that I have one. I didn't even know that you could do all these things. And it's been the coolest watching her, and I applaud every mom.
Yeah.
Because it ain't easy.
It isn't easy. That's for sure.
No. And it's just so beautiful. So you have your son, you decide to come back a year later. You are working at this time, or are you taking time off of work as well?
I took about 5 months off after having him because again, my husband and I waited for a while, and I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed all these moments because I had a feeling he was going to be our only child.
Did you have a okay pregnancy?
I did.
Oh, good.
Again, like with my background in fitness, like I'm going to brag a little bit.
Yeah, do it. This is the time.
So I had a doula, which a lot of women, I don't know.
So cool.
Some people don't know what that is, but my doula was fantastic. She's somebody who was there with me from the very beginning, like throughout the pregnancy, getting me mentally prepared. And when we had to go to the hospital, she was there with me because my husband, you know, he's not going to know what to do. I mean, he's going to be there to be a great supporter. Right. But when it comes to someone who knows what they're doing, having my own personal doula was definitely a game changer. Yeah. And so leading up to having, going into labor, I would do squats every morning. I just kind of just wanted to keep myself active because the biggest thing is I didn't want an epidural. I'm terrified of needles. Yeah. I don't like them. And that freaked me out. All of my other friends already had kids. So I already heard all the stories about, you have to be really still. The needle goes in, you feel like a cooling and all this. And I'm like, no, not for me. So I'm going to do everything I can to mentally and physically prepare to have this child without an epidural. Right. And sure enough, I think I started contractions like at midnight. And then I went all the way till about 5:00 in the afternoon, and the doula was telling me that the contractions were getting a lot closer. She said, "Go ahead and go."
Time? That seems kind of like a long time.
They weren't that bad though.
Okay,
it was just a cramp here or there,
sure.
but it wasn't super close. It's just I kind of noticed something was happening. Like my body was telling me something's about to happen.
Yeah,
and so I called the doula. She's like, "All right, go ahead and go to the hospital. I'll meet you there." We get there, she's kind of watching me, and then she's noticing the contractions, what time, she's timing them, and she's like, "Let's go and do some lunges around the perimeter of the hospital." So I'm over here doing all these exercises. Then she brings me inside, and we're on my big medicine ball, and she's got me doing other things too. Finally, it's like 9 p.m. and she's like, "All right, let's go ahead and check in." So we checked in. I go into triage. They check everything and they're like, "Oh, you're 0 centimeters.
Stop."
And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yes.
So the doula gets me out of the bed and she tells me to start sway dancing with my husband.
Okay.
Within 3 minutes, my water broke. I mean, just boom, done.
What?
And so now she's telling me, "Okay, well, we're not going to be able to do the epidural.
Yeah,
you're going to have to just do this naturally, and it's going to get more intense." And so, sure enough, she was right.
Were you scared?
I mean, I can't really remember. I'm
Yeah.
sure I was in the moment, but there were so many things happening at that time. So, yeah, I mean, I just remember I was walking from one room down to labor and delivery and having to grip the wall,
Stop.
just to keep myself from falling down because of the pain. And
Stop.
I got in there, but I mean, again, it was
Right.
one of those things where my doula kept me centered and she just knew what to say at the right time.
Did you do a bit of hypnobirthing? I've seen a little bit of that. Okay.
I've never done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know that it's a lot of breathing
Okay.
exercises. I don't really know. I've not had babies, but it seems cool. I don't know. But a doula is totally my jam as well.
Yes.
That's very, very cool.
Yes.
So she walks you through the whole thing. How quickly do you progress then after? And then you have the baby.
Wow. So after that, my son was born in 3 hours.
Wow. How many pushes do you know?
I don't remember that part.
Okay. But more than 3. Sometimes there's stories and they're 1 and done. I'm like,
no, it was a lot for me.
Okay,
we still had to push him out.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately he was, I think he was sunny side up is what they told me. So it was a little bit more challenging to get him out, but I did it and
with no epidural.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
So again, that's the thing, with a woman's body, it's incredible.
Wild. Well, and then you're like, I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, are you sure? Because I think I would remember. But that's what I hear all the time is and I heard this once a really long time ago, but something about how God takes the memory of how painful it was again, so you can continue to have them and you remember just the beautiful parts of it.
Yep.
I heard that when I was really young because I've talked to my mom too. My mom was in active labor with me for over 24 hours.
Okay.
And has told me before, it was excruciating, but I don't remember. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How? But it's no, that's just what happens. And then you go on to have lots of babies and we're down and it's great.
Yep.
It's so wild. So you come home and then you are there for however many months. You decide maybe you want to start moving your body again. You start going to Pure Barre. What does the shift look like from, okay, I'm with my baby all the time and this is so important to me, but then now I have this business, that shift from, mommy to boss. What does that look like for you?
So, when I had my son, I was still in the financial industry. Mm-hmm. And what really started happening to me was I was getting burned out. It was just overwhelmingly stressful.
The events.
The events. Yeah. And also it unfortunately was that sort of group of people that I had to work with and for, it just was not a healthy relationship. It was becoming extremely toxic for me. So my dad, started noticing that as well. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, part of the reason why when this opportunity came about where I had been a member at Pure Barre Lake Mary for about 5 years before this opportunity presented itself.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she opened and I never looked.
So you've been going for a really long time then. That's so cool.
So then, Ellen approached and just asked if we wanted to purchase it. And I said, yes.
Why you? Why do you think she approached you? Because you loved it so much or do you know? Did she ever tell you?
She said that when she was considering who she wanted to take over the studio, she really wanted a member who loved it as much as she did.
Yeah.
I mean, Ellen is from Birmingham, and when she not created, but when she established Lake Mary's Pure Barre studio, she instilled this hospitality and Southern charm. I mean, it was incredible. The community, and that's another thing about this fitness concept is it's not just a workout. It really is a community of women that are all about helping each other, empowering. We all try to empower each other and make ourselves stronger. And Ellen really did instill that. And I think she wanted a member that had those same values as she did. And I always tell everybody, like, Ellen planted the garden. I just get to water it. Yeah. And I just want to keep,
so special.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place for sure. I mean, I love the workouts. I love my team. I love the community of women that go there. Yeah. And our goal is to just help them get stronger.
Totally.
And that's for me, it's fun and it's exciting. And that's why I love it.
Yeah. So when you first acquired the business, what did that look like for you kind of on the daily? Like, were you balancing your time? Did you have help with your baby? Did you feel this pressure of like this mom guilt, of like, that's what I'm always hearing. And Val next door, she owns a hair salon, and Val and I are always talking about she has 2 really small babies right now, 2 little girls. And she's always telling me, like, you just have to do it. And you, like, these moments come and go on both sides, but like, you just have to show up as best you can. Tell me a little bit about what your experience looked like with that.
So when I first took over, I jumped right into just doing the operational side of the business because I took over in 22. So we were still kind of reeling from COVID. Yeah. Thankfully, Ellen was able to stay in business during COVID. Good. She was doing live streams. So nice. We were still able to work out from home, even though we weren't able to go in. And again, like, we just rallied behind her and kept the studio going. And so when I took over, it was about, okay, how do we grow? How do we build more awareness? Yeah. Totally. And that was the biggest thing, is we just needed to build more awareness because like you started out with, not a lot of people know what barre is. Right. Some people think it's like, a ballet class. It's not that at all. It is a workout. So we have to like shift the perspective of what barre actually is. And that's kind of what I had to do when I first took over. And my son at the time was 5. So it was one of those things where I didn't feel too much mom guilt because my hours that I would put in at the studio were really when he was in school. Sure. So it was a great, a way for me to go and do what I needed to do at the studio. And then I would go pick him up.
Hard boundary. Yeah. I gotta go pick him up.
Yeah. I mean, and I do, obviously, because I'm an owner, it doesn't really shut off. Like, I have to take it home with me. Right. And that's just one of those things where I do have to try to balance. Some days I do well, some days I don't. Yeah. It's one of those, just, it's a balancing game.
I always make this joke about how we all like quit our 9-to-5s to like own our own business, and now we work 24/7.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of not what I meant, but like, now here we are. And it's like, actually, I work 24/7 actually. And my phone rings at 10 PM and 7 AM and every hour in between. And it just is what it is. Yep. But we love it. So it makes it work, or it makes it, worth it. Come 2022, what are some things that you're doing to build your business? Are you doing fun events? Like, what is the thing that catapulted in your business? Like, what was like the moment that you're like, okay, this is working, we need to keep doing this?
So when I first took over, it was a lot of just, how can I get the members engaged? Yeah. We were trying all different kinds of things. Like, we were doing wind down events. We were doing pop-up events. Like, that was a big thing for me, was doing a lot of pop-ups. I'm a big advocate of, trying to bring awareness of other businesses in our community to our members. Yeah. Because we have such a phenomenal member base. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part of showing them what is actually around them that they might not know.
Absolutely.
So we partnered with several different places to do pop-ups. And then it was, coming to you guys and asking if you guys wanted to be a part of like different raffles that we were doing. And
which I love that mentality, by the way, if I can, just for a second. I haven't only lived here for like about a year. And I have never lived in an area like so I always say downtown Lake Mary is like Storybrooke. It's like very much like mom and pop. It's very, everyone knows everyone, very family. It's so sweet. Like even when those kids won the Little League, parade, I'm like, where do I live? I'm like, I have never lived anywhere where they would care about something like that. It's so sweet. But there's something so special in working here for the last year about the connection that people make with the guests and with the community, and like businesses knowing everyone. And we all have the same client base, right? The same guest customer base. It's so fun to say like, oh my gosh, Heidi, yeah, you do your Pure Barre here, you do your brows and lashes here, and your facials here, and you do, you eat down there, and you get your clothes down there. And it's such a cool experience to be able to support the same girl in like every avenue. It's so special. And it's a type of community and connection that I think is so special and I've never experienced before. And every day I'm blown away by, oh, I found you from these guys, or I found you from these guys. And it's like, thank you. That's so sweet. Because it's not like that in other places.
Right.
At all. It's actually like the opposite. In other places, it's more of like, well, you can't go there. Like so competitive. But my thought process is there's plenty of people to go around, and there's plenty of bodies and faces and heads of hair that we can all be successful. And the kinder and more supportive you are, the better it's going to be for you.
Right.
And I think about that all the time. So yeah, when you guys reached out, I think you were one of our first like bigger type like partners. We partner with quite a few now, but at least when I first started, the first that we saw the fruit from it almost immediately. We have so many of your members and vice versa. And that's so cool. That's what it's all about.
Right.
So I love to hear that. I love to see that. So you are building your members as well. What does that look like? Like what do the incentives look like if they are at like the higher tier? What are all kind of the bells and whistles that they get with that?
So are you referring to memberships?
Yeah. Like what does it look like if they want to become a member? What are the options? Like when they're coming to, do you pay just like per class? Do you monthly? Like what does that look like?
So what we try to do, and this is something that I started when I took over, because again, being a member initially, I know where they're at coming in and trying a new fitness concept. And I just try to make this as easy as possible. So when someone's coming in the door, we just try to tell them like, we have a great introductory offer. It's a trial for like 30 days where they get unlimited access to the studio. This way you need to build your schedule with us. You know, this is group fitness, which not a lot of people are familiar with. It's not like you can just go to the gym. We're not 24/7.
Sure.
So you do have to come in, you have to book your class. I mean, we have capacity for about 20 people at a time in the classes. So it's, a different kind of mind shift that you have to get used to. So with that 30 days, they get unlimited access to the studio, trying us out, seeing if we're a good fit for them. And it's, I try to make it as, fairly inexpensive as possible to try out. So we do it for $99. And then you kind of see what you want to do after that.
Great. Yeah.
And like I always say, there's no commitment attached to this either. Like I'm not going to hold you for 12 months afterwards.
That's nice.
You choose if we are the right fit. Cause again, I want you to be here because you want to be here. Right. Cause then I'm going to be committed to helping you reach what the goals are that you tell me. You're a real person. Yeah.
And I think that's where too, like we sometimes get lost in the sauce with some of these bigger companies is like, yeah, but we're still a small business, right? Like we still care about you as a person. We want to see you be successful. Correct. Same here. Sometimes we'll have guests that I'm like, I'm here to help you. Like, come in for like a one and done. That's totally fine. But like, let's also, you obviously have concerns. Let's fix it. Like we're real people. We want to see you be successful. We want to help you with whatever, fill in the blank. It's the same with you guys. I want to be as accommodating as possible. So what do the classes kind of look like? Walk us through like what to expect, what they look like in the beginning, in the middle, like talk about how hard it is. What do you wear? Like if someone's new and they're interested, like walk us through what an actual class looks like.
Sure. So we have 4 different formats. And our game changer actually happened a couple of years ago, where our corporate, because we are a corporate company, we're just franchised.
Sure.
So our corporate headquarters, decided to do a survey, and they did a lot of research about what particularly women were looking for in a workout. And we learned that they were really wanting strength-based kind of training. And so we ended up adopting a new format called Define, which allows women to bring in larger weights. I mean, we have all the equipment, so you don't have to actually physically bring your own stuff. We have all the equipment there ready for you. But this particular format allows them to use like 8, 10, 12, 15 pound weights. And you're doing functional movements that you would see at a gym, like a chest press, and then like a deadlift, things like that.
Like RDLs.
But we're still doing this in a group setting. It's still an instructor leading
the music.
you and the music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, there's no thinking involved. I tell every single woman that I bring in, and for her first class, I'm always like, don't think, just do.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is just follow along with the instructor.
Totally.
I mean, it's like that sort of easy.
Yeah.
But it is a challenging workout. Like you're going to shake. We want you to shake.
Yeah.
It's going to burn.
It's going to shake, girl. It is. And there's times when I'm like, I am so embarrassed. Like there are times that I'm like, you can't even control it. Like it's your whole body. It's your whole arm. Like, and there you are. You're like, I'm sorry. Like one of my favorite things to do is and this is like silly, but anytime I've ever taken barre, Pilates, yoga, anytime that I find myself being in that situation where I'm shaking uncontrollably, you just have to laugh at yourself or just like take it as like it's just happening and it just is what it is. And that's good. But there are so many times that I'm like, this is making me feel so embarrassed. Like I'm not very strong, but it's good. It means that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say is that if you're shaking, that means it's working.
Totally.
Like the whole point is to break down.
Because I was going to say, what is the shaking? It's the muscles like going past exhaustion.
Fatigue. Yeah. That's exactly what we want. We want them to go into fatigue.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we're going to retone your body. And that's the biggest. Every time I ask a woman, what's her goal before we try to find a class time for her, I keep hearing that a lot is I want to tone my body and it will happen. Absolutely. If you give it 3 months of consistently showing up for yourself, you will see those results.
Absolutely.
I always tell people it's the hardest part is just pulling into the parking lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, once you step foot inside, the whole environment just changes and you feel so much better after the class.
Yeah.
I mean, again, yes, you probably are shaking and you're burning and all of that, but it's all because we're trying to change your body for the better and we're keeping you active and so like I was saying, Define is just one of the 4 formats. Classic is our signature barre class, which is where you're going to see those very small movements. We use about 2 to maybe 5 pound weights in that.
That's kind of what I've done before, like the tiny little ones.
Yes,
and
correct.
They're mighty.
Yep,
but they're mighty. That 1 pound seems a bit heavy.
So that class is actually designed for the toning.
Okay.
And then we have a great cardio-centric format called Empower. And that one is just designed to keep your heart rate up for the full 50 minutes. All of our classes are 50 minutes.
Okay.
And then we have a fantastic class called Align, which focuses on your balance and flexibility. So that one, I tell everybody, take it at least once a week. I notice when I take it consistently that my performance increases across all the other formats.
Sure, because it's kind of like your recovery class.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great class for sure. It's not a huge calorie burner, but it works your body in a different way, and that's the design of it.
Does it have kind of like that yoga-ish like influence? Is it like a lot of stretching, or is it more still like
it still has some strength training in there, but yes, there's stretching definitely involved in that format. And the point of it is to the flexibility aspect is, I mean, we do a lot, the pigeon stretch is definitely usually incorporated in that one. Yeah. And the whole design of it is to just increase that flexibility, making you, just, it helps improve your posture.
Yeah.
And then, the other great thing about barre is, and I've had so far 2 of my members tell me that they've been able to get out of osteoporosis just from doing the workouts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge.
And I think that's where too, there's such a miscommunication about fitness in general, that it has to be this like extremely intense regime to get yourself to where you want to go. But that's a huge feat that is not so strenuous on your body. It doesn't have to hurt. Like, exercise and movement and health doesn't have to be this like grueling intense experience. Like barre is not like that. I mean, it can be, right? But it's gentle on your body. Mm-hmm. You're not throwing yourself anywhere crazy. You're not like, you can't catch your breath after because it's like so rigorous. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. If someone is like planning their week, what is like the perfect recipe for like a really stellar week or even month maybe of like fitness? They want to see the most results out of the 4, like plan out kind of what a month would maybe look like or like a week.
So for me, I would at least try to take classic at least once or twice a week. Mm-hmm. Empower if you're really cardio driven. It just depends on the goal that you're setting for yourself. If you're trying to build your endurance, then you would want to maybe do 2 empowers a week.
Sure.
So it really depends like on what you're trying to set for yourself. Define is going to be, just building your strength.
Yeah.
Which I find, because like I said, we have women that are in their mid 70s that work out at our studio.
That's so cool.
It is amazing to watch them in class. They don't hold back. I mean, they all give it their all in every single class. And I'm just so proud of all of them because they are what I aspire to be as I age. Because where we're located, there is, like a sort of like lab place. And I see more often than I would want to, these elderly folks who are in walkers and wheelchairs. And it breaks my heart that they're in these conditions. And for me, it's a motivator that I have to stay active. I have to keep my brain active. I have to stay physically active.
Absolutely.
And so when I watch, these elderly women in my classes, I'm just blown away.
I want to be like you.
I'm like, they are so strong. It's incredible to see their results. And so, and then align, like I said, once a week would be a good, well-rounded routine. Yeah, that's why I feel like I'm blessed for what our corporate team has done for the Pure Barre as a whole by giving us the formats that we have. Nobody will ever get bored with what we do. And, it works your body in a whole, all the way around. And then, you have such a great routine. You don't really need to go anywhere else. Everything is underneath our roof.
It's so cool. I really love what you said about as we age, still taking the time to prioritize your body, because I think we see that a lot. And I think it's so funny because we live in a society where eating well and like movement, you're like, you're crazy. You run. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. You eat healthy. That's crazy. And it's so interesting. We talk about that a lot in here because a lot of us are on the carnivore diet and a lot of us take a lot of supplements, and a lot of us in here are really passionate about like heavy lifting. Not me. There's a couple of girls that are really interested in it and really love it and that type of thing. So the conversation about fitness is every day in here. And health and wellness in general. But it's so interesting because sometimes we talk about these things that we do, these practices that we love and we do, and we're all like fairly pretty healthy and are strong and whatever. And it's so funny because sometimes we'll get comments of like, that's so extreme. And I'm like, no, what's extreme to me is not doing anything.
Correct.
Like, and why is that glamorized? I think what's crazy is you drinking a ton and eating like crap and not moving at all. That seems crazy to me. Why is it that the shift has happened? Like, what are your thoughts on how society has made it almost like, oh, you work out? Like, that's crazy. Like, where does that come from, do you think? What do you think that comes from?
I'm not really sure, but I agree. Like, it should be something that we should be. I mean, we definitely need to promote more being active.
Absolutely. It's a blessing.
It is.
Some people aren't.
Yeah. And that's like, again, like one plug for Align, because at the end of every Align class, it does influence a little bit of that yoga esque to it, because you just kind of lay there and the instructors that teach that class, turn all the lights off and you just kind of lay on your mat and you basically go into a moment of just giving your body gratitude and thanking it's, it for what it was able to do. And it's just one of those things where I love that part of the class because it really makes me go into a place of thinking deeper on what I was just able to accomplish. And it's, I mean, I agree. I feel like it should be more, people need to be more active.
And it's not bad.
No.
Right? And it's actually, you feel better. I know that getting there, I know it's hard. I know.
That's always it.
I know. But I promise you, every aspect of your life will improve if you move your ass. I promise. Like and we say this all the time. Like, I know it's hard. I do. But I pinky promise. It's what they say. It's true. Eating well, drinking a lot of water, moving, it works. And even if it's just walks, I see a lot on my TikTok. It comes across my desk about how these girls are really, big on the walks and like the ankle weights when you're walking. Even that is good, but just getting in a bit of movement. We're not meant to just be sitting at a desk like me all day.
Correct.
All day. This is what I do. I have to move at some point or I'm going to be like this forever. Yeah. We just take it for granted. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
It's such a bummer. Okay. So if someone is wanting to work for you, what does that look like? How does someone become an instructor? If they are wanting to pursue a career in this part of the fitness world, what does that look like?
So when it comes to instructors, which we are actually hiring right now, I love wanting to like build my bench is what I call it. It just allows me, again, like when I go back to where I came from, as far as the job I was in before I took over this studio, I know what burnout is all about. And that's kind of where I was. And that's why I'm really grateful that I was able to get out of that position. So I try to do the same thing with my team. Like I constantly tell them, if you're feeling burned out or if you think you're going to get to that point, let me know. Like we will work through the schedule. We'll figure out some other alternative. Cause I love my team way too much.
It's not easy.
Yeah. It is not an easy job at all. I mean, it takes, musicality is a big part of their job. Having that, ability to hear the beat and being able to memorize choreo and then be able to say it over the mic and command a room of 20 people, and keeping it
and to be excited. You
have
have to be their hype person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it has to be something you're passionate about. Right. So I always say, like, if you are interested in being a teacher, the very first step is you reach out to us. You can go online and find our phone number and stuff. And then we would just invite you to come take a few classes. Like I would want you to take a couple of classes, and see what you think. Like if you can see yourself being one of those instructors behind the microphone, that's where I like to start first. And then we'll go through the formal process of, giving you an audition because we have to see like, how can you command the room and how good are you at memorizing choreo? And then from there is a formal training process.
Sure.
All of our instructors have to be certified through a corporate training program.
Wow.
But the program has actually evolved a little bit. So I'm happy this year they finally made it a little bit easier on people. Because we know, I'm not really going to have women do this as like a full-time job.
Sure.
There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, this is a part-time situation for those that want to do it. So we couldn't have our former program, just wasn't working. Sure. So I'm glad that our corporate headquarters definitely listened to us owners about making it more user-friendly. So now it's like a good 45-day process.
Oh, nice.
Where you watch, a master trainer teach a class. And then after that, it just kind of becomes like do it at your own pace sort of training, which is great. And then you just check in with your assigned trainer, which is cool. And then from there, we go into doing a test out video, which is fun. And then it gets submitted and then we're hoping.
Oh, wow. So it's like pretty.
Oh, it's a legit process.
Yeah. I'm like, you just do it. I'm like, oh, no. I misunderstood. No, that's so cool though.
But it's all really, well thought out.
Absolutely.
And we, at our studio, we know like, we are only going to submit the videos that we know are going to pass. Sure. So that way it's always got a good chance of getting a good grade. And so, it is fun. Like they also get cool perks, which I know they all love. So, but it is a great team. And it starts with, you have to ask yourself, are you passionate about Pure Barre?
Right.
Like we got to start there because it does require a lot, but if you're passionate about it, then it all just falls into place.
Absolutely.
But that's essentially, how we would hire a teacher.
Yeah. And so you're hiring right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, okay.
I'm always looking for teachers because I just want, like I said, I just want to build my team and get, a really good, well-rounded group of women, and men too. Cause I know that at some studios they have male teachers. Yeah. We don't have any yet, but I'm always
maybe someone listening. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, you have to be passionate about Pure Barre. You have to be passionate about helping people achieve their fitness goals. I mean, really, that's why I love this job, is because that's one of the biggest things. I really want women and men to feel their best.
Absolutely.
And however I can help, like, be your cheerleader, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. What advice do you have to someone who is maybe wanting to franchise their own or open their own kind of like bespoke bar studio? Like, what advice do you have for someone who's wanting to kind of get into the fitness space?
Again, I think it's passion.
Yeah.
I mean, with as much time and energy that goes into owning a business, I mean, like you said, it's a 24/7 job almost. I mean, I'll wake up and look at my phone and see, did somebody text me, a question or whatever? That's the key. If you're not passionate about it, then I think it shows.
Absolutely.
And it comes across. And so it's one of those things where you really you have to be invested in it. So if it's something that you're passionate about and it's a dream of yours, I would say go for it. I mean, again, the situation that I was in I was asked if I wanted to buy the studio. I let it sit with me for a good 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. And I just couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like, if you're in that same situation as me, I would say go for it.
Yeah.
Because it's worth it, to just take advantage of the opportunity that's being given to you and just run with it and see what happens.
Now your whole life is different.
Yeah. My whole life is different.
Like, what else would you be doing? Like, how exciting.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it.
That.
I love getting to meet like all of these new people. I love my community. Again, like, all of my members, and we still have a lot of OG members.
That's cool.
So we are very big about celebrating your milestones. So when you go into our studio, we have a wall dedicated to how many classes you take. And we always keep track. And there's bars on the wall that you get to sign at each club that you essentially get. And we just had several girls hit the 2,000.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that makes sense with how long we've been open. Now we're seeing women hit 2,000 classes.
That's a lot though.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that to me, like, that wall, cause my dad and I both, like, labor of love, got that wall together.
That's so sweet.
So we spent a good chunk of time like making that wall what it is. And I feel like that is honestly my favorite part of the whole studio.
It's like all your hard work in like visual representation.
It's such a great testimony to this workout and to this community. Like you said, it's a great, like, I love my location. I love Lake Mary. I mean, my parents moved here in 96 to Lake Mary. Okay. So
you've been here a while.
Yeah. I mean, I was born here, born in Orlando, but, so we moved into Lake Mary in 96. So I went to Seminole High School. Oh, cool. So, like, this is my community. I've never really looked back. And so I'm so grateful to own a Lake Mary business.
Yeah. How fun is that? Like a full circle.
It is full circle.
I love that. So if someone wants to work for you, take a class, plug yourself, follow on Instagram, tell everyone how they can find you.
So I would say the first step is to just go online and type in Pure Barre Lake Mary. Perfect. All of our info comes right up.
And it's Barre.
Barre. Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. Or like the shirt says.
Yeah. No, I love. Yeah. That's so cute. You repped some merch. That's amazing.
But yes, so you just go there. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We've got all the things. So
I love that.
There's pretty much it. You find all our info there.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting and getting into all the details of fitness, mommy life, wellness. This is a conversation that I could have for hours and hours and hours. I'm so passionate about it. And I think it's just so cool. Like I said earlier, the opportunity that we've had to partner with other businesses, it's just so special. And we're grateful for you and we're grateful for our community. And I think this year's going to be really great for all of us. Absolutely. I know we all have a lot of cool things in the pipeline and it's going to be great. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. Love working with you guys.
Yeah, it's been so fun. And it's so, I don't know, it's just so fun to see when our guests come in and they're like, oh, I took this class or I did this. And I'm like, way to go. Or like sometimes, we have a lot of friends that come in together and they're like, oh, we just came from a class and now we're getting facials together. And that's something that is irreplaceable. It's so special. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Cool. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Make sure to like and subscribe and we'll see you next time. Bye.